Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Supernatural Ouroboros. And this episode got kind of crazy and somewhat stupid at the end, but I feel that its main fault was that this episode, again, should have been 2 episodes because of the 2 different storylines that we had going on at once. Because even when we got to the back end half, it transitioned to this awkward climax for the whole Michael storyline. And it just, I kind of wanted to focus on what we got in the front half. I mean, like, oh, okay, hunting episode, pretty good, get us back in, and then suddenly start going, what? And then, alright. And then supposedly that happened. We'll have to see how it was, because I wish that these had both been their own episodes, because it just is a perfect example of so many plates spinning at once. We have to take a kind of hunting episode and somehow shoehorn it into and have certain things happen plot-wise to get us to a certain point that we get our climax. And it's really kind of strange. So it starts off, and instead of seeing someone die in the first part, we see that somebody's already dead. This dude is cooking this guy. He's got his chest all open up. He's talking to a snake and everything. And he pops out one of the dude's eyes, eats it, and his eyes go crazy. We see that Sam and Dean are coming in through the front door. It's like, what the hell? It's like, oh, we gotta get going. Leaves everything that he was making food-wise with the person, and just takes one of the eyes for later and bugs off. We transition into later, we see Sam and Dean doing the same things. Like, oh, okay, so evidently he'd seen into the future. But the thing is, he didn't see far enough, because we see Castiel and Jack are part of the retinue. It's like, oh, okay. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. It's like, dang, he keeps killing these people and eating them. There's no sign of restraint or anything. And then we come in and we see that Rowena has been helping them track this dude who's been like killing people and everything. It's like, okay, that's kind of interesting that she's actually going to be helping out and turning more into a force for good more than just, I'm going to do whatever I want. She's still kind of on that chaotic spectrum, but we'll see kind of how it goes. And Dean's kind of knocking on her, being like, give us the tracking spell, and we are still no closer to this dude. And they're kind of doing their kind of Scooby best, investigating the scene, seeing like, what's with the black lips? Does that mean anything? And then, of course, Rowena's like, yeah, everything means something. And, of course, Rowena and Sam go and hit the books and try and figure out what it is that they're hunting. Of course, Rowena is trying to dig into the fact that Jack was supposedly dying the last time she saw him, and now he's like, okay. Sam, of course, dodges the question Winchester style, and kind of leaves it at that. We get Castiel and Dean kind of talking about the situation, where Dean is like, listen, he's just pounding in my head. I just have to keep it under control, pretty much trying to get him to accept the fact that probably at some point they're going to have to coughin him up. It's like, okay. While we're seeing this, we see that Jack, he was coughing in the beginning of the episode, and then he is coughing again, and he's coughing up blood, and he uses more of his soul power to heal himself. It's like, okay. Since there's been so many weird breaks, and so many kind of episodes that shift so much focus on certain other aspects, where you're like, okay, I don't remember exactly what was going on, I thought that would have, like, not been as much of an issue, since he was being maintained by his soul power. But evidently not, and he's still kind of somewhat dying and has to use his soul to heal himself. So, okay, that's brought back into effect. Rejoins Castiel and Dean, and then they get the call from Sam, and we find out that we're dealing with a Gorgon. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. I don't remember us having dealt with a Gorgon before and all that. And Dean's lines about Clash of the Titans was pretty cool. I really kind of liked that. And they're kind of going into the lore that they kind of like eat people and gorge themselves, and that's what he's been doing as they like plot his kill path, and that they are trying to find out how to get him in a position so that way they can capture him or kill him. But the thing is, we find out that eating eyes lets them kind of glimpse the future, so they don't really have that much of a bead on him yet. But Rowena wants to make a kind of antidote for his venom, because if he kisses you or whatnot, instead of usually the Gorgon eyes, that's their kind of venom route. Okay, that's kind of interesting. And then we get two kind of things going on at once. We get the Gorgon dude pretty much using a dude to catch a glimpse of Dean and leave him a note. We see that Dean and Cass has gone to that crime scene, and that there's a note written by Noah saying, "Yo, leave me the fuck alone," kind of spiel. But he doesn't mention Castiel, mentioning that he's by himself. And it's like, okay, he can't see Cass or Jack, so that's good. Gotta set plans are forming. While Sam and Rowena are going to get the anti-venom. And they're like, well, it's kind of hard to get the anti-venom, so how are we going to do this? And they enlisted Jack, and we see that they play a couple bit with a dog. I'm like, oh, Jesus, they turned Jack into a dog. And I really kind of liked the interplay of Rowena getting in on the whole kind of spiel that they do, their whole kind of screen that they usually throw with everything. You know, well, it's not like the FBI, but I liked my performance and everything. And Jack's in there, and before he gets his temperature taken, and I'm like, oh God. Of course, the girl goes out of the room. Jack gets back into his human form, is able to get the antivenom, goes out, and says, yeah, I wish I could have been able to get this before she took my temperature. And Sam's like, okay. Rowena, of course, then goes on him and says, listen, to perform that transformation spell, there's some weird hoodoo crap going on with him. Please tell me. And Sam's like, nope, we got it. We're fine. And I'm like, all right, we'll see that going on later. So they've used the tracking spell again. They hook Cass and Jack up with the anti-venom just in case and send them off after the Gorgon. Gorgon, of course, is messing around with one of his food items. And he's like, you weren't expecting anybody, were you? And then, of course, that's when Cass and Jack get in. This is kind of weird because Castiel at least still has his angel powers, and he gets his ass kind of whooped by the Gorgon. If there was a more plausible explanation of why he just didn't, like, force push him or whatnot, and then have Jack chop off his head, I don't know. Granted, characters had to act this way because of the eventual plot point that we'll get to. So they pretty much get their asses whooped. The civilian dude he's able to get out because Cass was able to give him the antidote. Cass gets kissed by the Gorgon guy, Noah, and he's now paralyzed. And he's like, I can see you now to Jack. I'm like, what does that mean? And then relays to him the story of a chicken and a snake, where a snake would always eat this chicken's eggs until it gets to the last one, and it's a hard-boiled one, couldn't swallow it, and dies. Can't figure it out if Jack is the chicken or the snake. And, of course, since they're in trouble now, Sam and Dean are able to get in, and Jack gets kind of thrown back. Dean gets his ass, well, Sam gets thrown off first, then Dean gets his head bashed into the point where he's unconscious. It's like, yeah, you don't want the dude who's holding the Archangel in his head to be unconscious like that. So, I try to figure out what's going on. Dude tries to make a bolt for it, but Jack is able to chop off his head, and that's the end to that bit. I actually would have been more interested if that had been its own thing, and that had been the culmination of the episode, but we continue on. They get Dean back to the bunker, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And Jack, of course, at that point also had to use his powers to unparalyze Cass, and Cass is kind of admonishing him for that, and being like, listen, your soul's important. But Jack's going, well, if I don't use this power to protect the people that I love, what's the point of it? What's the point of being this immortal kind of being and everything? Like, okay, that's kind of cool. They then bring in, of course, the chicken and the egg thing again, talking about the greed of the snake, or the chicken's ability to sacrifice the thing it loved the most to kill the thing it hated the most. Because Jack had also brought the snake along. And I don't mind this. It's good foreshadowing for things that are going to be happening even later in the episode, probably later in the season. What I take issue with is it's not very subtle foreshadowing. It's like, see this thing right here? I'm like, okay, yeah, you could have just worked it in a little bit better. It's not horrible, but I'm like, okay, I understand you're foreshadowing something, but we kind of had this foreshadowing going on a while, and it's almost like the joke that plays itself out. You have to be careful how long you do a joke, or when you bring a joke, because otherwise you can just play it out to the point where it's not funny anymore. It happens in South Park. Can happen in foreshadowing. It's like, okay, we kind of get it. Jack's whole kind of shtick is he is the son of Lucifer. Is he going to be good or is he going to be bad? We kind of already had that before. So we go, and Dean is everybody's trying to figure out what to do with Dean and all that. And then, of course, he wakes up. He's like, he's gone. And really one of the strangest plot things that have happened starts to happen. And the thing is, it just starts to kind of break down more and everything. Now, granted, it's not completely and utterly destructive, because it was kind of lore breaking when I was watching it at the first time, because I'm trying to process what was going on. But evidently, Michael leaves Dean's body. And it kind of confuses me, because I understand that Dean can now more effectively wrangle Michael, but he was unconscious. He should have been able to take over the body, and then we're back to Michael Dean again. But that didn't happen. Instead, he's like, he's gone, and then we hear screaming and everything, and we see all these hunters dead. We see that Maggie's eyes burn out and everything, and she's dead. And at first I'm thinking, oh, is Michael trying to, like, possess all these bodies? But we find out, no, that Michael's vessel is now Rowena. And he's gloating and everything about how he had gotten Rowena to say yes to being his vessel. And we see that she's like, it doesn't matter. Sam's supposed to kill me. He's like, yeah, but what about all these other people you care about in the bunker? I'm like, I don't think a lot of people would say yes to you in the bunker. To be truthful, he should have, like, shot out and then, like, someplace else or whatnot. But Rowena says yes, and it happens too fast to make it believable for her character to do it. Now, granted, she would do it to protect those that she would love or care about. I understand that fact, but it's like, in such a short time frame, it's like, she says yes, and of course, Michael starts going after the slow kill villain kind of usual escapades, but I'm just like, Rowena is very, she takes comfort in the fact that Sam is supposed to be the one that kills her. And then we're going to even shift further on from that, from what starts to occur at the end, to even bring into that effect, if even Billy's ability to predict the future and deaths of people is even that much of a viable power. Because I think when you start bringing in, how should I put it, like upper tier cosmic level beings, if that throws off that stuff at all. We'll have to see, because we see that Michael Rowena is, of course, hurting all the people that Jack cares about, and then they get into their fight. And it's just a lot of force pushes. I know that there is a budget, but if you're gonna do like an Archangel kind of thing, it's either Don't show and just have it kind of happen off screen to have it be like, okay, put it in our minds of how cosmically epic this is, or put the budget to it to make it more interesting. Because they're just kind of force pushing each other at first. And of course, Jack is comforted by the fact he's like, I'm not a child, I'm the son of Lucifer, I'm a Winchester. And then pretty much exorcises Michael out of Rowena without killing her. Like, she's fine. And then we just see Michael fucking floating up in there, and then he does some kind of power, kills Michael, and absorbs his grace. And then says, hey, I'm back now. I'm me again. And then we see his eyes go to the usual kind of glow that he has had, and he has his wings and everything. And if it were that easy for him to have killed Michael, why couldn't he have done it in the Apocalypse world? I mean, granted, Michael would have had an army of angels, but I mean, if it was that easy, and granted this rip in space-time was closing, he did it so fast, and I'm like, okay. I understand Archangel levels have to fight Archangel levels, but I didn't know where exactly an Arch Nephilim goes into that realm. I guess he's more powerful than Lucifer, so he would be able to do that. It's just, explanation-wise, I don't need everything explained, but I'm like, okay, alright, then the Archangel Blades and all that stuff. Well, this is going to have to come into handy because of when Lucifer eventually comes back into play, what's going to happen. But the main crux of the argument is what's going to happen to Jack, because he would have to have used a large portion of his soul to exercise an Archangel and kill it. So we'll have to see what the repercussions of that's going to be. And if he's going to become the new villain at the end of this, okay, then since he has become such an integral part of the Winchester family, how are they going to help him with this? It felt like such a rushed conclusion to the whole Michael storyline. And I wanted the Michael storyline done. Do not get me wrong. It was just not properly paced and just went in such weird directions that it's like, okay, this makes sense that this is the kind of ending that we would get from it. But I'm just, alright, now that the Michael scenario is done, what's going to carry us to the season finale? The whole Jack line? Okay, I could see it. But we'll have to see how they plot that out, because the preview that we got looked to be like another kind of Hunter kind of one, just a typical Hunt of the Week, which I'm fine with. I just wish I had a clearer sense of where this was going to be going, because this is what happens when you have so many different plates spinning at once, and you need to pick which one you got to stop spinning in order to put more effort into another one. I mean, if they handle Jack correctly and what's going to be going on with the state of his soul, it could be interesting. We'll have to see. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.